Hello everybody! I've got a new video coming up just for you. A retrospective of one of my favorite TV shows of all time, Cold Case. Now, why Cold Case of all shows? Why do I consider it a great television show of all time? Why? Well, I don't know. It is one of those shows that uses music to its advantage that actually does advance the story. And it's licensed music on top of all that. That is really well done. It's really hard to find a show that uses licensed music so well, and the detective thing is just really well done. I'm describing it as piss poorly as possible, but the show is very similar to another show. In fact, I think that this show pretty much copied the style of Cold Case in a certain way. And this is what I mean. However, they didn't use the licensed music. Lost is basically one of those shows that uses flashbacks to help us describe how a character or what a character is going through, while Cold Case is also known for using flashbacks for basically telling us about how the character came to be. I'm going to go through all 6 seasons and give my rating on each one, which one is the better season and whatnot, and just go from there. So, yeah. Instead of a top 10 list, I'm going to talk about the entire show in a nutshell and rate each season. So, let's get things started and let's start talking about this awesome show that actually needs a DVD release. It deserves one. Come on. Get the rights to the music and just freaking give it a release. But anyhow, let's get to it and let's start breaking down and talking about Cold Case. Let's hit it.
That you won't be walking out the door. Feel like carrying this feeling when you walked into my house. That you won't be walking out.
So, season 1 of Cold Case. How does one talk about one of the better seasons? Well, season 1 is probably one of the best seasons of about any show. We are giving pretty good groundway to the characters and etc. Even though the show does kind of start Lily Rush, who is played by the wonderful Catherine Morris, who is so underrated as an actress. We do not see her anymore in anything. And it's just, she's criminally underrated. But here's the thing. It starts Lily Rush going into homicide, but not just any homicide, cold case study homicides. And I do find her detective work and etc. so endearing. She's not a perfect main character, I will say that much. She will lie. In fact, the very first episode of the show, she lies to one of the victims of her past because she wants to get information. She will do that. She will kind of do a sort of good cop, bad cop routine that does happen throughout. And we are also introduced in the first episode to, well, I guess some of the rest of the cast. And yeah, it's not exactly perfect. No, there are many problems in the first season. First off, there is, well, pretty much one of my favorite characters that kind of got axed off early, Lass, who is played by the wonderful Justin Chambers, who's only in 4 episodes of the entire show. And I would have liked to have seen their chemistry, but apparently it did not work out with him. He wasn't feeling it, and Justin pretty much left the show. But of course, he would go on to bigger and better things in the future, such as being in Grey's Anatomy. And for a while, Lily herself is partnerless. She's on her own, she's got to do her own thing, yada yada yada. It's pretty much that until maybe about 6 or 7 episodes in, she is paired up with Scotty Valens, who is played by the wonderfully talented Danny Pino. Now, I will say right off, their chemistry is perfect. Now, Lass and Lily did not have that much chemistry, and you really couldn't feel it, though I did kind of like the, budding friendship performance. You could tell these two have worked together, but it doesn't feel, like the same chemistry that she would have with Scotty that would basically happen later on. And at first, the two aren't really on great terms, but they do become the best of friends, especially in the very first season of the show. Scotty is more of the kind of new young cop that wants to be the tough guy and show off for everybody, and I do like their chemistry of how grounded Lily is. Lily is a very interesting main character, and season 1 has so many good case episodes. In fact, the first episode pulls you in, and the second episode does a legger and pulls you in yet again, in one of my favorite ones called Glean, or I can't remember the name. I'm doing this big retrospective and I can't remember the name, but the cases are just so well done. And we do get some interesting guest stars, like D.W. Moffat, who actually plays one of the main bad guys. If you guys haven't seen the show, don't be watching my video, because I'm going to be spoiling a lot of episodes in here. And we get a few interesting guest stars that really stand out in this season. In fact, we get some really good episodes that stand out in this season. One of my favorites in this one being Runner. And I don't know why, I just really got into this. There's a lot of twists and turns and etc. that just goes on with this episode and with these characters that I don't normally, it sets a really good groundwork with everything here. And I just really love the direction season 1 goes into. Now, the show does change it up as the seasons come around. It's not just the same bland, boring stuff. But season 1 does have a lot of the same. Well, we gotta interrogate these guys. We get these flashbacks. Basically, how it starts out is we see a flashback within each episode of the story that we're going to see. We get set into the story, and we get to kind of know the victim or victims, or even the killers in some cases, of the show's episode premise. And that kind of does a really well done flashback. Lost would go on to kind of copy this setup, but Cold Case came out first, and I think Cold Case uses flashbacks just a little better. See, Lost, I always found the flashbacks distracting and taking away from the story, whilst in Cold Case, I find the flashbacks so much more, and it's setting up more characters, and it's gonna tell us who's lying, or they're dropping little hints throughout the run of the show on who the murderer is. It's basically like playing Clue. But Cold Case is just able to take this and using excellent music. I don't think that there is an episode of the show that misuses the music. Although, maybe in later seasons they could have used different songs, but mostly everything where the music is used explains to us in a key way of what's going on. Other shows like Grey's Anatomy and etc. would try to copy this formula of how Cold Case would run things, but I think Cold Case utilized its music the best. Other shows would come out later, such as Medium and etc., and they would just try to do the same thing, but Cold Case just kind of handled it the best way possible, and season 1 is probably one of the best seasons I have got to say that's of the entire show. It gets so good, and we do get to know these characters. They are not just avatars to what's going on and etc. We get to know Lily, we get to know Scotty, and of course we get to know a few of the other characters that go on. I mean, it does set groundwork, and you do see the other characters of the show trying to correct some of their mistakes of the cases that they worked on in the past, several of them. Other than Lily and, of course, Scotty, we also have the boss, who is John Stillman, played excellently here. I mean, he does the hardcore boss and etc. And he just kind of plays this role excellent. At first, he's sort of like the hot-tempered boss that doesn't really give two shits about everything, and he seems all hard and cold, but he does have a special relationship with Lily, and Lily pretty much sees him as a father type, and I think he's performed really, really well. We also have one of my favorite characters, personally, my favorite out of the group, Detective Vera, played by Jeremy Ratchford, and he is just done to perfection. He's kind of this Neanderthal-like dumb detective guy who's fun-loving and enjoyable, and he gets a few cases on in the show too. Honestly, Vera is one of the best written characters of the show, and I think he's got a fantastic story arc that runs through the entirety of the entire show. It's just really well done. There are many episodes that feature him, and one of the best in season 1 is one of the earlier cases, the Hamama case, I believe is what it was called, where he was trying to find a certain murder rapist that was going on, and there is going to be a trigger warning here, guys, I apologize, and that was basically a serial attacker, I guess that's the better way to say it. And he's basically spending his career obsessed with it, trying to find it throughout this season. He gets a fantastic arc. Then we are also introduced to Tom Barry's character, who is just excellent, Will Jeffries, played by the overly talented Tom Barry, who is also a criminally underrated actor. Now, some of you guys may actually know him. If you're Space Jam fans from the 90s, you'll know him as Michael Jordan's dad. He would also come into shows like Grey's Anatomy, Lost, and etc. for certain cameos like that. He's always a treat to see, and I love his backstory that goes on throughout the show too. You find out that he definitely has connections to the show that can go from racial connections to straight out heartbreaking, hurting connections. In fact, he's coping with the loss of his wife. It's really depressing and really hard to watch. The fact that his wife was killed in a car accident because of some reckless driver, and I don't want to spoil how that happens and what really happens, but let's just say his performance is dead on and fantastic. He kind of starts out as basically kind of the warm, giving kind of guy, but he does get more of the numbness, and you get to see more of him as the show goes on. He's a fantastically well-written character, and I love almost any episode that features him as one of the main guys. Even his interrogation scenes are great. In fact, in later seasons, he basically gets to room with Vera, and oh god, the two have such excellent chemistry together. It's kind of like, I guess, older brother type chemistry that the two have, and I just find them hilariously well done. Now, we don't really get too much of them in this season, unfortunately, but we do as the show continues on, and it's hilarious. I mean, the two definitely butt heads a lot, but you can tell they definitely care about each other, and basically Jeffries does care about everybody else in the group too. We don't get other characters until later seasons in, but we do. This is our main cast, the 5 main cast. Oh, I guess 6 if you count Justin Chambers. And yeah, the chemistry on the show at first wasn't exactly perfect, but once we get more into the episodes of the show, it just gets better. Every season seems to get a little better as it goes, but I will say season 1 as a whole is fantastic. I mean, some of these episodes are downright excellent. We basically start the very first episode on a murder, and it's her last case. Beforehand, before she goes to homicide and goes to the cold case files herself. Lily herself is kind of an interesting character. We don't really get too much about her past until the next season, which is a season I am going to talk about in next detail. But as a whole, season 1 is well done. There are a few downer episodes that I really didn't care for in this season, but basically, there are a few great episodes that I absolutely love. This season is pretty damn strong, and that's all I'm going to say. So, ranking the entire season 1 as a whole, since it sets the groundwork, and we did have to do a few cast changes later on and focusing on characters, I'm probably going to rank this whole season as, well, maybe a 7 out of 10. There are some boring episodes, there are some episodes I don't care for, but as a whole, and the way it uses the music and tells the flashback stories, I love it. I love almost everything about it. It's excellent. This is definitely a strong season of the show, and it only gets better. So let's move on to season 2, shall we? Well, I'm going to spoil some things about you guys on season 2. Season 2 is my favorite of the entire show. Yeah, I know I just made that big spiel about how much better the show gets within each season, but season 2 basically is what hooks me into the entire show from beginning to end. And yeah, I'm not going to bullshit you guys anymore. Season 2 is the show's best of the best. It doesn't get any better than this. So I probably just ruined the retrospective of how I'm going to grade the videos afterwards. But let's get back to it anyway. Season 2 basically starts up where the very first episode of season 1 also started. It starts investigating the murder that Lily was looking into that happened right within that episode. And now it's kind of coming full circle here. Fantastic. And this one also involves basically Jeffries, and I love that. I love almost every episode in this season. There are some stinkers, but they are very few and far between. This one has some strong episodes, really strong. One of the best episodes of the entire show is season 2 episode 9, which I'm sure many people on the Facebook page Cold Case Fans, or the Cold Case Fans Facebook page, basically knows what I'm going to talk about. Mine Hunters, which Lily finds several headless bodies of skeletons in the woods, and it goes from there. You find out that these are all connected, and it's a serial killer, and it's a very powerful serial killer that's very close to home. It is just so well done. In fact, it's probably my favorite episode of the entire series. Not only is it connected to these cases, but the perpetrator himself, which I'm going to spoil, George Marks, is connected to Lily in a sick way. In fact, he is considered to me, by me anyway, to be the other side of Lily Rush. Lily is obsessed with her work and doesn't really have a social life that much anyway. You find out more about her sister and etc. George is about the same way. Both were controlled by their mother. Both were obsessed with their jobs. Both were just felt alone and unable to connect with other people. That's exactly what they are. However, Lily used her ability of being smart and etc. for good, while George himself, a simple file clerk, was using his for his own sick entertainment. It's basically amazing how these two counteract each other and complement each other. How different yet the same they really are. And George himself is basically a fantastic villain. One of the best villains written in a TV show that I've seen. I would place him right underneath Ben Linus from Lost. That's saying a lot because I am the biggest Ben Linus fanboy. And I've got to say this much. He was so good they had him come back for a second part. But I'll get to that episode when I get to that. This is one of the show's strongest episodes and one of the darkest episodes. Because unlike most of the other episodes, the person doesn't confess. He walks right out. George himself is played by the legendary John Billingsley. A really good actor that a lot of Star Trek fans will know as Phlox. And how he is able to get into the mind of these other characters and break them down and beat them till they have nothing and using their past against them is amazing. Now, I'm just talking about this episode alone. I know. I got to talk about the rest of the season. Don't worry. George comes back. And he comes back indefinitely to finish his run. I will say that the biggest mistake with George is they could have kept him in the rest of the show. What do I mean by that? He could have been a reoccurring villain that came back to taunt the characters, or maybe in a very similar Hannibal Lecter type way. They could have kept him alive, and Lily could have used him for information to get upon other killers that are maybe copying him or anything like that. That would have been excellent. But I do like the route, kind of, how they were able to get the show to go. And George should have been used that way, but I do like his ending and etc. and his past on everything on how that one goes. However, let's get to the rest of the season, because I could spend probably a good hour talking about Mindhunters and the final episode, The Woods, and you guys are here for the rest of the season. Anyhow, season 2 itself has amazing episodes. Like, standouts to me is Wishing, which is just a damn near heartbreaking episode that could make you cry. There are several fantastic episodes. In fact, the very first episode is fantastic too. But a lot of standouts happen in this show, especially in this season. This is, to me, the best of the best season of the entire show. We get more groundwork for the characters, and standout episodes are basically Daniela, Mindhunters, Red Glare, The Sleepover. I could just name and probably rank this entire season on how freaking good it is. And we do get more of character resolve in here. We get more added on to the home lives of, hell, even Scotty. In fact, this one is kind of Scotty's season, if you think about it. It's really everybody's season, because we do get to know these characters more as the show goes on. And we learn Scotty has a girlfriend, childhood girlfriend from his past, that does suffer a mental illness. And it's a very depressing way that she does go. He can't protect her. We also learn more about Lily's past. This season is definitely Lily's season too, because we learn about her home life, about why she became a police officer, why she got involved in law enforcement, and it goes into heartbreaking, complete and utter dismay and detail. It's beautiful. It's excellent. And there are just so many fresh, powerful episodes that the show goes. We get more into John Stillman's past, which is fantastically well done. You know, we find out the reason that his family is split apart is because he had a daughter that was assaulted by an older man, and he threatened the guy, but that's all he could do. And of course, we get more on two of my favorite buddy cops of Jeffries and Vera. And, you know, the two are just, I don't know, they get into their bro stage, and I just love it. Season 2 takes a big, massive turn in a lot of these episodes. I mean, they use the music here almost flawlessly. I don't think that there is an episode where they miss the music in this season, and it's just done so well. We get more edges on the characters instead of them just being, hey, we're in law enforcement. See, that was the problem with a lot of season 1. We didn't really get to know the main cast. We got to know more of the people in the flashbacks. And that's what I think was fantastic. That's fine. I like knowing about the victims and etc. That's giving them more of a personality than, say, how Bones would do with we don't really get to see the victim alive. Here we get to see that the victim is a fully three-dimensional character that had a life, that had people that loved them, and that had everything. And a lot of times, unlike Bones, they would get a lot of good guest stars to play as the victims. Like in season 1, Mae Whitman played one of the characters, which is a standout episode, like I said. Here, I think the show really helps us sympathize with the main cast more so than we do the victims. And it's just really well done. It's all put together. It's the show's best season. I'm not gonna lie, I simp for this season. We get so much more than just the groundwork of the characters. We get to see a lot more of their past, and I really like that. That is just excellent. And of course, we still get to know the victims and their past and etc. And we still get to enjoy getting to pick who murdered who, or who caused the murder, or what happened. In fact, sometimes there is no murder. There is nobody to be arrested. In fact, to me, one of the darkest episodes in this season is Daniela. I went on detail about this in my list of runner-up episodes, but Daniela, there is no winners in this one. She wasn't murdered, but her soul was lost. And she basically, there is no happy ending for Daniela. Her beloved knew about her death, and it's not like he was the one that caused it. He knew that she had passed away, and the mother doesn't really get closure because she now has to find out that her daughter, well, basically son, but you guys know what I'm saying, her daughter was alone, died without real love, or she was thought that she did, and her lover has to be alone still. He was never able to find closure for himself, being completely alone. Now, there have been some comments in my runner-up video that perhaps maybe Daniela was the person basically took his own life at the very end, but I don't think that's the case. I just think that it was more of a darker turn for him, and it was just a darker episode altogether. Nobody was brought to justice except for the guy that was making the really bad snuff films, but he didn't do any murder, so he was just some crazy fucking stupid teenage moronic dude. This is, to me, might actually be even darker than Mindhunters and the Woods, because there is not a happy ending. There's no resolve. A lot of these standout episodes that I do talk about, like the sleepover itself, it is heartbreaking. It's basically just one of the things. A girl wants to be accepted, and she dies because of her best friend, or somebody she thought was her best friend's stupid decision. There's just a lot of pain in this season. And finally, I'm going to talk about the season 2 finale, The Woods. Basically, George, who I mentioned earlier, does come back to finish the job with Lily. And it does end up in a final standoff between the two, holding each other at gunpoint. And it ends with the song Behind Blue Eyes playing. We learn all about Lily's past, about why she became a cop, because it was hinted to us in the earlier section about why, because of George hinting at it to us, because he read her files. But it is complete and utter standoff, final standoff, and right after it's over, the song Behind Blue Eyes plays, which is definitely on the nose because of what George did to his victims' heads and what he did to the doll eyes. Yeah, it's definitely on the nose. But like I said, in this season, it is a damn near perfect season with a lot of darker elements that the show has. The editing, the flashback styles, they all have excellent projections. The camera's well done. The footage is well done. The music is excellent. I think it's the show's best season for a reason, so I am actually going to rank season 2 as a whole 9.5 out of 10. I know that sounds insane, but seriously, this was the season that made me a Cold Case fan, a big fanboy. I loved it, I couldn't get enough of it, and I had to rewatch it. It is also my most rewatched season. So let's go on to season 3.
And, Quinn would never be able to have children again.
Now remember when I said about season 2 being awesome? Well, season 3 is probably my second favorite season of the show. Season 3 has a lot of fun, memorable episodes. In fact, season 3 episode 1 has the family episode. Now, I will say that the editing style to this one is weird. Like, really weird. I know they're trying to get to more of a, a tone of that 70s style flash, like, cut screen. I was not a fan of the editing flashbacks that were done in this one at all. I mean, it has its good points. We get some more interesting fun with this one. We get the Fireflies episode, which is just a freaking great episode. And of course, my favorite episode of the season is A Perfect Day. A episode that I am not too proud to say that I cried at. I mean, literally, I bawled my eyes out on this episode. It was just so painful to watch this one. And it is probably one of the harder episodes to watch of the entire series and the most emotional. We have many, many memorable episodes out of this season, and I don't know. I just could keep going on and on. There is more to shine on Will Jeffries on this one. I like it a lot. And we get a little bit of Vera in this. However, my biggest complaint with this one is I'm not a huge fan of the finale on here. This one had a strong opening. I mean, they completely go like maybe a week or two in advance about Lily, but the season 3 finale kind of sucks. Yeah, I mean, there are some good midterm episodes too, but there's quite a bit that I skipped too. Like on my first watch through, I watched them the whole way, but on my second rewatch, I admittedly have skipped a bunch of these episodes. There are some really great episodes that I definitely have added on my list before, like on my, the deal list where I'm talking about the runner-ups. I've added a lot of season 3 episodes, and season 3 is good. But man, the finale kind of stunk. I mean, when you go to a big finale that, say, season 2 has, season 3's finale is just downhill. Not to say that this is a weak season. Like I just said, this is probably my third favorite season of the entire, second favorite season of the entire show. But it does have a lot of problems. And I mean, quite a bit of problems. I can see where the steam is starting to run out, and there's some recycled episodes going on, it feels like. But I do see the strong love in this one. I mean, there is the Colors episode, which is great. And one of my favorite voice actors actually does a guest star in this role, Bo Billingsley. You know, Jet Black from Cowboy Bebop. That's always a win. I love that shit. But as a total, season 3 kind of just falls short. I know a lot of people don't want to hear that, but season 3 really does fall really short. Because it feels like we get a lot of character development that we did have previously from the first 2 seasons. And we're kind of put on stop for a while. I mean, there is an episode where we revisit some things from earlier seasons. It just doesn't feel as fleshed out as seasons 1 or 2. But it's still a fun season to watch regardless. There's a lot of great things in it. And the music, like I said, is always on point when it comes to that. The music is just on point all the time. So I guess I could rank this one, and it's not going to be as good as season 2. Season 2 is a damn near perfect season, but I'm going to rank season 3 maybe an 8 out of 10. It's not perfect, it's not great, but it is worth watching. So, yeah. Let's do that. 8 out of 10 for season 3. Let's go on to season 4, baby. On to season 4. Actually, there's a lot of good episodes on this list. But I will say season 4 didn't set the groundwork that, say, season 2 did. It kind of reverts back to season 1 of, well, basically us mainly getting to know the victim. We're not getting very many character moments. I mean, we get moments where Scotty is dating a girl at the coroner's office. Scotty has many failed relationships. And we actually get introduced to one of my favorite characters in this season, Tracy Thomas. Basically, a lot of people will know her from Rent. And she has a fantastic and tremendous singing voice. Great. And I'm so glad she got to come on as a mainstay, because it was actually nice to see a female of color. And I know that a lot of people probably don't like me getting into that, saying it like that, but Tracy Thomas was extremely likable and quite possibly my third favorite character. And it's just nice to see a woman of color on the main team. I enjoyed her way more than I did most of the other new girls they tried to throw in there. But getting back into it, season 4 has some really good episodes, really great ones like Static. And I got mixed up on season 3 and said Fireflies was season 3. It's kind of hard to do there. But yeah, season 4 has some really incredible episodes. There is The War at Home. There's A Perfect Day. There's just so much in this one. And it's just about as good as season 3. We get some good characters introduced. We get a lot of interesting storylines that kind of don't go through. Though I will say Lily's love life is kind of maneuvered around in this one. Out of nowhere, she starts getting feelings for a guy who is involved in a murder case. It's really confusing. But this one does have very many memorable episodes, and I've got to say that I really enjoy this one. It wasn't easy to really talk about each episode as they go on, but there are a lot of fun factors in this, and I really dig it. It's great. But, well, there are some slow episodes too as well. Season 4 is strong and probably one of the show's best seasons, which I've been saying that about almost all of the seasons that I keep coming across, but season 4 does have some episodes that I really skip. I mean, some of these episodes can be really big downers, and some of them feel like repeats of episodes from the past. In fact, I think the very last section of season 4, they tried to give us a character that's similar to George, but that's where I get into my case of they killed George off way too early. They should have kept him alive, and they should have kept him as a reoccurring villain like a Hannibal Lecter type, instead of maybe killing him off. Yeah, I'm going to talk about George a lot, guys. He is my favorite character out of the villains in Cold Case of all of them. I think they should have kept him around to help solve cases as, like, from a cell, like, very similar to Hannibal Lecter does, and, say, Red Dragon, or etc., or Silence of the Lambs. He would have been perfect to do that. But they didn't really do that. Imagine how cool it would have been that former killer, Lily's direct other version, the dark side of herself, is basically getting help from her darker side. And that's what I see George. George is what Lily would have turned out to be if Lily had not have went into law enforcement, and or if she had not have gotten out of the evil that was holding over her or gotten through her past. George is basically another version of Lily. And I keep going off. I know he's not even in this season, but he is mentioned a few times. We do get a little more insight with Stillman and his ex-wife, but the cases, this season mainly just focuses on the cases. It's kind of slow, but the cases that are good are really freaking good. I mean, some of them are damn near heartbreaking and beautiful and etc. One of my favorite episodes on here is Saving Sammy, about the autistic boy that did witness his parents die in front of him. And we are actually given the killer early on in this episode, and I think that's fantastic because apparently kids with autism, this is an old early 2000s show, don't lie, and they do tell the truth through the entire thing. But, however, it does have a lot of mission match and etc., so I do have some complaints about this season. Some of the episodes I openly skip. It's just like, I don't care. There are some really iffy ones, but the ones that do tug at the heartstrings. But I'm probably going to get a lot of hate for this one. I'm going to say that this might be the weakest season of the show. And that's saying a lot for me because there was quite a few episodes on my top 20 list. You know, the runner-up and the top 10 list, I kind of coincided them together. There was some really good episodes, and they even made it to my list. But like I said, when you have so many low points in a season and you can't all be winners, and then you start recycling ideas, that's where the season starts to fall a little bit. However, the music and use of flashbacks are just still really well done. But this one is probably the weakest of the show. So, for season 4's total rating, and it's going to hurt to do this, I'm probably just going to give this one a 6.5 out of 10. So let's go on to season 5. Now, what do you do after a weak season of Cold Case? You get a freaking strong season with a strong start. Season 5 is awesome. Starting off with the very first episode called Thrill Kill, which is basically a gigantic reference to the West Memphis 3 killers, or victims in my opinion, because I believe the original West Memphis 3 accused, the ones who were accused, are definitely 100% innocent. This kind of does its own take of it. There is so many freaking good episodes in this one. Way more than I thought that there was in season 4. And in fact, there is a lot of episodes from this list. I mean, we've got the End of the World on here, or whatever, where it takes place in the 50s radio. Oh man, there is just a lot of good ones. And instead of just focusing on the victims, they go back to dealing with character development again. We get more insight with Tracy Thomas's character, and we get actually more groundwork for Lily and etc. Though there is a few strange moments that happen with Lily that I didn't exactly care for. There are some really strong moments and really powerful scenes and episodes here. We get more insight with Stillman. We get definitely more groundwork with him. We kind of see him kind of doing an off and on again relationship with his ex-wife. I do like that. Vera and Jeffries are kind of rooming together at this point of the season, and you kind of see like a brother-sister relationship between Tracy Thomas's character and Vera kind of form up that I really like. And we get some more Scotty detail. In fact, some of my favorite episodes do come across here. Some of the very first ones I watched, actually. One of the ones I remember was a character that assaulted girls, several girls, and they all teamed up against him, and it looked like that each one of them could be a suspect that could have killed him. Kind of like a Who Shot Mr. Burns type thing going on. But when you find out who the killer actually is, it's damn right twisted, and I couldn't believe it. There were many, and I mean many episodes on here that I could rewatch, enjoy, prop my feet up, have a big bowl of popcorn, an ice cold beer, and a nice tall glass of wine, and just binge. Season 5 is definitely binge worthy. Finally, we're getting back more into the character status of the main cast, and like I said, we do get to know the victims. Now, there are some reusable plots in here, like Boy Crazy was definitely a plot thread from, say, Season 3, where they take elements from when a boy's mother went crazy and she had shock therapy until of course, with the LGBTQ plus community episodes, they kind of try to run those all together. Kind of like Daniela. It's a mixture of Daniela and an earlier episode, and they do that, but I really like the way that Boy Crazy was done. I think it was just much better paced. I do know that a lot of people love Forever Blue, but I think that the best LGBTQ plus episode happens in Season 1, A Time to Hate, because you really get to know these characters, especially in a time period of, say, the 50s or 60s when homosexuality was not looked kindly upon. But this one was done well too. This one was mainly done because these places did exist. These were kind of schools that had to force it into your mind that you were straight or you were a certain way, you liked to dress a certain way. In fact, actor Anthony Perkins himself, Norman Bates from the Psycho series, actually went through this, where he had to lie to himself because he was actually a homosexual, and he had to lie to himself over and over and say he was straight. He even had kids with a woman that he married. So, either way it goes, yeah, I got it from that point on. This is just an excellent season, a very strong season with a very strong season finale that I dare not spoil for everyone. There is just a lot going on, and I really like this one. It really picks up. In fact, I think the other seasons after this one, the other two after this one, really pick up on it too. They each pick up on it. They are about as equal as season 1 and season 2. They are about as equally good as them. So, yeah, the remainder of the seasons are fantastic, and the plot elements that we get are really excellently done here too. I know I'm going really short and tangent on these season reviews here, but I'm not trying to do it on purpose because, well, the show itself kind of stops character development after this season, sort of. We do get more, but it's just kind of a string of different things. We get more insight to these characters, but right around this point, we already know what we know about them at Season 5, but we do get some interesting stuff that does happen later on. Anyway, Season 5 to me is worthy of, I'm going to say, an even 8 out of 10. It is just that good. Season 5 really picked up the slack from Season 4, and it just improved everything. It was great. This one is definitely recommended to watch. Let's go on to Season 6, shall we? This season kind of focuses back to Lily again, which I am fine with, and we get some more of the other characters' groundwork, but there's really not too much to know about the character development of the main cast except for what Lily's going through. Lily gets a new boyfriend. It's all kind of interesting, I suppose. Yeah, this is the second to last season, and you could really tell that they're running out of gas in this one. Not in a bad way. They do revisit plot elements and etc. In fact, some of these episodes are fan-freaking-tastic. In fact, one of my favorites being the last two of the season finale with, say, the Baldwins, where they try to investigate the death of a woman that was basically murdered in this camp of military school. It's really well done, but they really are trying to drive home the attention of Lily being scared of, I hate to spoil it for everybody, but if you're watching this big-ass retrospective, you probably already know many of the episode's twist endings. The person that had everything to do with it was honestly a Baldwin, and I just say that because, well, you know, Baldwins, if you know that they're in the show, you know they're going to get their shots right. That's all I'm saying. You know, you're about to hit every target on that one. But all joking aside, she is basically obsessed with him, not throughout this season, but he tries to kill her within a few times, knocking her car into the water, trying to drown her. It's all really interesting, but it just kind of feels forced. Season 6 has a really good selection of episodes, but it's not as good or as strong as Season 5. In fact, the opening to Season 6 isn't that great, but the middle chunks do make up for it, and the ending does, even though they are just trying to recreate the George Marks thing with Lily. In fact, Lily almost dies in this finale. It's kind of interesting. There's just really nothing going on with the groundwork for the main characters, but we do get more insight with the victims again and the victims' family. But here's the thing. The victims are mainly one-side characters. They are one-off characters. I mean, they come back every now and then, or they revisit the case every now and then, but the show killed off its greatest villain that it had, its greatest antagonist that it had, too early. And I know they are really trying to compensate for that by having a Baldwin as the big threat. However, Season 6 is awesome. There are many, many episodes that I really do remember, but I honestly didn't visit this season as much when I was a kid. In fact, I think I was kind of growing out of my cold case phase as a teen, and that kind of just pushed things forward. But still, it is a good season, and like I said, it's still as strong as the other ones that I mentioned. There really isn't anything huge or revolutionary in this one. In fact, there isn't any gigantic character development from this season other than with Lily until about Season 7. Season 7 is the final clincher. Yeah, I know, I said there were 6 seasons earlier, and that was a mistake. I forgot about Season 7. But yeah, this one just does have a few misses, but it's still just as strong as the other seasons of the show, of the other good ones that I mentioned, like 1 and 3, 1 and 2. You know, it's about around there, especially with Season 5. I do think Season 5 is just a little better. So as a rating for really good episode selections and whatnot, I'm probably going to give this one a 7.5 out of 10. It does have a really good finality, but it does feel sort of forced. That's my biggest complaint. And then we'll go on to Season 7, the final season. Well, here we are, the final season of the show, Season 7. Ironically, probably a really great season. A really good opener of a case that happens of a young girl murdered in the 60s until, say, in the middle, where we get some good character development from the main cast again, and we yet again get to know our victims. You know, Cold Case does a great job of showing us the victims and making us sympathize or either hate the murder victim. I do like that there's not no clear cut of good and evil on why somebody has to die. In fact, this season has a lot of great episodes. One of my favorite episodes being the serial killings that did happen within a 27-year span, and the killer is played by legendary actor J.B. Blanc. Now, a lot of people don't know him that well, but he is definitely a revenge killer and one of the most interesting. I would put him right behind George Marks as a really good performance and suspect slash victim. But his is more of a revenge killing that's going on. Basically, he's going around and killing people in the movie theaters and whatnot, and he's digging the bullets out of them. It's really interesting on how well it's done. Now, if you guys don't know who J.B. Blanc is, he was the doctor in Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul that worked on Gus's injuries after Gus was shot. But I know him as an anime voice actor and video game voice actor. I mainly know him as Roberto from Monster, and that is my favorite performance. But this performance of his is definitely gives me the Roberto vibes from Monster. Now, I know a lot of you guys watching this video aren't big anime buffs, and I happen to be. And this, yeah, I'm sorry. Every time I see an anime voice actor or something in this, I have to bring attention to it and be like, oh my god, it's them! But this season is great. Lily gets a lot of interesting screen time too. It does shift her obsession with Baldwin's character, and that kind of stays as a presence around for most of the show until Baldwin's character ends up murdered and Lily is a suspect on the list. On top of that, she's investigating his murder, and it doesn't look very good. There are some great freaking episodes here. My problem with this season is the finality. And I know I keep saying finality or finale. That's how I pronounce things, guys. Anyhow, my problem with this season is the finale. Not because it's bad. No, because it's fantastic. Lily's sister returns. And if you guys know Lily, you know that she has family issues. Her mother did die, and her sister is basically all she has left. Her sister returns, and they kind of try to find out why her sister is where she's at. And I really don't want to spoil this one, but it does end up on a great note. And I wanted to see what happened next. But unfortunately, the show was canceled. Yeah, it was canceled on such a great ending and a good cliffhanger. Basically, it went Sopranos on us. And if you guys know me, you know I'm a big Sopranos fan. I love The Sopranos. But the problem is they gave us great answers, and it just didn't feel like a proper ending. It just felt like it stopped. There was another murder investigation going on in the finale while she was trying to find out what was wrong with her sister. And yeah, that's my biggest issue. I wanted to see more. But if I'm griping that I didn't get to see enough after 7 long seasons of a fantastic show, then you've got to know it's a good season. And they left us wanting more. And they did it in the worst way possible, though. I wanted to understand what happens next. What happens between Lily and her sister? What happens between the other characters? There are so many plot holes we did not get solved. However, yeah, it ends and it leaves a sour taste in my mouth. And as much as I love this show, I wish it could have got a proper ending. I think at least a mini movie would be nice, like a direct-to-TV movie to finish everything and wrap everything up. Unfortunately, that's not going to happen. The actress who played Lily's sister passed away 2 years ago, and it's just not meant to be. I would like to have seen what happened, but unfortunately, we do not get to find out what happened. Catherine Morris no longer is acting, at least I don't believe. Danny Pino, I haven't seen him in anything for a while. Same with the other cast of Tom Barry, Jeremy Ratchford, and everybody. Tracy Thomas is still prominently out there, obviously. But yeah, this season is a bittersweet season. It's good, it's great. So much better than season 6. Though I will say the Baldwin plot lines, they shoot straight to the point. But they kind of loom over the whole story plot a little too much and interferes with her work. And I get she would have trauma over that. But why would she not have trauma over what George did to her? Though I will say the best episode of the season, other than the finale, is the scenes with JB Blanc. Those 2 episodes were freaking fantastic. I loved almost every bits and piece to those episodes. They probably would go definitely in my top 30s. Yeah, well, that about does it on this one. It's a straightforward season. They use their music masterfully, and of course the cutscenes, which can be a little strange and strained or a little off. But I really like this season as a whole, but so many plot lines were left unsaid and undone. I wanted to see more. I want to see what happens. Maybe they could continue it on with Danny Pino as the lead and say Lily left at this point. I don't know. This is just one of those shows that definitely need at least a movie, a straight to video movie or whatever to finish it off. It's just fantastic. Now, I will say that this one is probably one of the best seasons, but it's probably one of the worst because they just leave us with so many unanswered questions. So they did kind of do a Lost thing, like what the fuck. But as a whole, I am going to rate season 7 entirely probably an 8, solid 8 out of 10. There was so much good in this one, so much going on, and so much strong and powerful elements, but too many unanswered questions. So basically, my favorite is still season 2, but if I had to put the other ones in order, that would be it. You know what I'm saying? Season 2 is definitely my go-to season. So many good episodes, rarely a bad one. There is no boring plot lines throughout season 2. I don't skip any of the episodes. But season 6 and 7, well, let's just go through it. Seasons 4 through 7, I do skip a lot of them. But that about does it for this. This was probably one of the biggest retrospectives I've ever done on a show, a TV show, let alone one like Cold Case. And it was kind of tough to do. I have been working on making this video for nearly a year and a half now, and it just took a lot. I had to rewatch the show to memorize everything, and I had to talk about some of the bad points and the good points that I really liked. But it was fantastic. Someday I hope it gets a DVD release, but if not, well, at least we have it on HBO Max and on the Roku channel to stream it. Anyway, thanks for everybody who took the time and patience to watch it with me. I really appreciate it. You guys are great. And I really want to thank the Cold Case page for letting me be an admin on the Facebook page. I love it. I guess you guys know I'm probably one of the biggest Cold Case fans ever. So, yeah. Well, that's about the end of the video. Come join me when I show my ugly mug again for a little special announcement after this. Anyhow, let's go. Is my retrospective of Cold Case. And if you've never seen the show before, what are you doing? Watch the damn show. Anyhow, that about does it for this video. I know it took a long time for me to actually bring out my retrospective, and it's got a lot. You know, I've been putting out videos very, very sparingly now, but we know what's coming in the next round. We know exactly what my next slew of videos are going to be. Now, June is on its way, and I've got to start filming for a certain special type of month. And I'm pretty sure you guys already know what it is because I have done it yearly, and it's my 3rd year in a row for one of the greatest months. Well, 2nd year, whatever. It feels like 3rd year. For one of the greatest months ever, June. And you know what June is. So, let's get to it and let's be bossa nova. I'll see you guys in June. That's when my next videos drop.
Hello, this is Corey Feldman. Welcome to my studio here in Los Angeles, California. And I just wanted to pop in to say congratulations to Tim. Mr. Tim, I hope everybody's enjoying your videos. He's got some great content, and if you're enjoying his content, make sure you click on that little button right there that says subscribe. Why? Because everything on his channel is bossa nova. That's right. Congratulations on your channel, Mr. Tim. I'll be following you, and I know everybody else will too.